what's the date on this? June.
It should be June 18th.
June 18th.
Yeah.
And Hogan goes on to die, July 23rd, 24th?
24th.
So, a month and 5 days? What is that, Dan? 6 weeks? 5 weeks?
Yeah, 5 weeks or so.
5 weeks. And although it was a series of hills and valleys, porpoising, if you will, I think inevitably what I say, I think actually, Lummy, my most accurate report that I was getting from my insiders was here. Because, I think after, Dan, this was immediately after his procedure or thereabout. And I think they knew, Dan, when you have complications from that procedure he had, which is called what? Go ahead. I asked you to learn it.
He had a 4-level discectomy infusion, cervical.
And if you have, what are complications that can happen? First of all, Dan, what does that entail? Just speak in layman terms, a guy driving a truck in Warsaw, Indiana, kind of give us a layman terms as to what that means.
Well, based on what Lummy said, that would mean that he would have 4 of his cervical vertebrae fused together after removing the 3 discs in between.
So, but hold on.
Graft.
So cervical vertebrae are in your neck, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then
the spine in your neck, having 4 of them fused together after taking out the discs.
And when you fuse,
you ain't moving.
And so in that procedure, is there what complications can go wrong? Obviously, that's what happened here. We lost Hogan from complications of this procedure. What, from the top to the bottom, what can go wrong here? Well, first of all, let me ask you this. What does it entail? Guys laying there on the slab, you and Kenny Priz are there ready to do the surgery. What does it entail? To me, I was told that it involved cutting through the front part of your body, not they don't go in from the back, they go in from the front.
A lot of times they do what's called an anterior approach, which sometimes a general surgeon will do the approach for the neurosurgeon. And they dissect between the neck structures and the muscles. So kind of between your neck muscle on the side and your esophagus and trachea.
All right, so you're talking about
get to the front of your disc.
You're talking about kind of like to the side of your neck a little bit?
Yeah, 1/3 over.
All right. So
yeah, right there.
Kind of in between your mouth and your ear?
Yeah, halfway down your jaw, right between your windpipe and the muscles next to it.
Right. So kind of again, that real estate between your mouth and your ear in that area, that's where they go in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then what happens from there? They go in.
They start moving things around and stretching things to the side, and then they take out the disc, which is the little sort of rubbery thing that separates and cushions the individual vertebrae of your spine, and then replace it. Then they put bone graft, and they'll put hardware in there, and between the two, it fuses or locks those bones together, so you don't have the pain of disc disease, which causes nerve compression.
Now,
there's a couple problems.
Go ahead.
You're stiff.
Meaning
you don't move.
You're stiff neck Willie?
Yeah, you're stiff neck Willie. A 4-level fusion is going to cause significant stiffness. It's also going to cause a lot of stress on the vertebrae above and below it because they have to do extra work. But the problems during surgery could be, you can have problems from the anesthesia. You could have respiratory problems from the ventilator. You could have bleeding, and you could have nerve damage.
Now, that being said,
or an infection.
You absolutely, that's a major surgery. 24 hours after that surgery. 24 hours after that surgery, I think if you are a general surgeon or a surgeon like our boy Shivering Sierra Niz, you would flip out, come unglued, and I've seen you lose your crap. If a guy that just went through that procedure told you tomorrow I'm on a private plane headed to Green Bay, Wisconsin to do a 4-hour Real American Beer signing where I'll be on my feet for 4 hours, and then from there I'm going to Waukesha, Wisconsin. I got 5 beer appearances to do this week, all of which requires me to stand up and sign. I've been told, because again I've got some inside sources, that he was told by his doctors that he needed to be bed rest. Like, he needed to be, the only time he needs to get up for a week or so was to go to the bathroom, and that is if they didn't have him cathetered and/or he had one of those Whizzinator, he could just pee in a little can kind of gimmick. And so, would you come unglued if the guy that you just did that most major of a surgery was saying, tomorrow, Doc, I'm going on a world beer signing tour?
Yes.
And so, what would be the rest time you would put? Like, you'd say, okay, now, Terry, you are not to be active. You're not to be going down to your karaoke club. You're not to be touring the country for how long? I was told from my sources 4 weeks.
Well, certainly after a big neck fusion, 4 weeks would be the safest. I certainly wouldn't let them do anything significant for 5 to 7 days. Like, not even go to the mall.
So you're saying you're saying like a week you're in bed.
You should be you should just be getting up for only emergency stuff. Right. You should be having a very sedentary time. The blood vessels don't seal up for 5 days. So it takes 5 or 6 days for you to lower your risk of bleeding. So when they did this procedure, do you think the doctors knew they had messed up immediately, or do you think complications arose thereafter? I'm a little confused, Bubba. Did he get the surgery and then try to get up and go to Wisconsin or something?
Yes. He was.
So the surgery went fine, then he had a complication after.
They said that he got the surgery. I think you can find reports on it. And I know that I was told, but I know that you can find reports on it as well. If you do, send them to me, where he was up and already doing personal appearances within 24 hours of this procedure.
He did this to himself?
And so you're saying, Dan, there's a chance where the doctors nailed it.
And he screwed it up himself.
And by, traveling at 37,000 feet on a private plane and staying in hotel rooms and wearing yourself out and because listen, the one thing when Hogan did appearances, I know this because I did them with him I always wanted to sit down.
Yeah.
But he's like, no, brother, you got to stand up. That way you're always taller. Terry, I'm not 6'6", I'm 5'10". That way you don't look as powerful. And he was always, listen, he knew all the gimmicks. Stand so you look bigger and stronger and meaner and what have you. But, and that's probably good for a healthy Hulk Hogan.
Hey,
but
did Hogan, did he crave the attention? Was it hard for him to be at home because he's so used to people going crazy for him? Because I know how wrestlers, it's harder for them to give up wrestling because of that high they get. Did Hogan have a hard time giving it up, or was he just always just on the grind because he wanted to make that money?
And because he had never, since the time that he got in wrestling, he had a lot of pitfalls and a lot of, porpoising in hills and valleys. But, he was, Hero Matt, I think it was Hero Matsuda, when he first went down to the Sportatorium to train, broke his leg on the first day that Hogan went down to the Sportatorium and told him he wanted to be a pro wrestler. Back then, they would try to hurt you. When a new guy came in who knew nothing about the business, was green, a frog, and wanted to get in the business was so sacred and coveted, Seth, that they would try to run you off. They would try to literally, just physically run you off. So his first day, he had to do and by the way, this has nothing to do with wrestling. He had to do 100 up downs, where you go inside the mat, where you're on your feet, you hit your stomach, you roll around your back, and then you get back up to your feet. Hiro Matsuda made him do one, and that, by the way, that has nothing to do with the business. You know what I'm saying? Made him do 100 of those, then made him do 50 squats, then got him in the ring and broke his leg.
Jeez.
That was his first day. They broke his leg on the first day, trying to run him off. because the business was so sacred. By the way, that's when the Briscoe brothers were running hard in town, and that's when, I think Arn Anderson might have been down here. Paul Orndorff was in Brandon. And, Terry was this guy that was in this band called Ruckus. He was a bass player, and he was going to USF. He was going to University of South Florida to be an accountant. And then he quit doing that, and he went and worked in the Port of Tampa, being a longshoreman, like working and running a forklift and unloading stuff. After his leg healed, after they broke his leg, he went and did that, and then he decided to go back. So he went back to the sportatorium, and they're like, okay, well, if the guy comes back after us breaking his leg, and they knew he had the size, and so they at that point then started training him. So Seth, he loved the business, but he also loved being in the spotlight, and his biggest weakness was being alone. He hated being alone. So like when him and Linda were going through their divorce and the kids would be in LA or Miami or whatever, sometimes he would just come over to my place and go upstairs and spend the night. Just because he didn't want, and he'd wake up in the morning. I'd already be gone, but I'd see his car in the driveway, and he'd get up and have breakfast with the kids, that's when I had a gym there, and train. So, he had a key to my place, and he hated being alone.
Did he admit that, or you could just see?
No, he admitted.
Oh, okay.
And Sundays were, for some reason, the worst for him.
I sent you the article for May 15th.
The article
about his neck surgery.
Oh, okay.
How he's about back up.
All right, here we go. This is from
TMZ.
There we go. Boom. Maybe this Dan will lie some more. Hogan undergoes neck surgery, but I'm all good, brother. It says Hulk Hogan just underwent neck surgery, and this is from
May 15th.
May 15th. So, this statement right here, Lummy, this is from June 18th?
Yeah.
So Dan,
a month later.
So Lummy, I'm sorry, Dan, in 1 month, he had, went from having surgery right here, 1 month, went from having surgery to information getting back to me. I was the first to report it, that he's not doing good. And the family has been, I still stand by my words. I'll play him again. And the family has been called. He's in the hospital.
I don't think you have to play. I think you proved to be a legitimate source.
But all in 1 month. Like all in 1 month.
But do we have a reliable, actual evidence of him doing an appearance between May 18th and June 18th?
Yeah.
If you do this
he's normal somewhere?
In this article, there's a video of him talking about
Hulk Hogan just underwent neck surgery, but TMZ Sports has learned that he's already up and running wild. Boy, this doesn't age well at all, does it, Dan? As far as, this is probably what killed him. This right here killed him. This right here killed him. Not staying in bed. By the way, and listen, Dan, this was a 1 month period from, when's this date? When's this, Lummy?
May 15th.
May 15th. To June 18th is just a little over a month. And 4 days. This is what killed him. A rep for the wrestling legend tells us that Hulk required a little fusion procedure. Now, Dan, what's the procedure called again?
A 4-level discectomy with fusion.
Isn't that a
huge one?
Far, far more than, hold on, and may I quote, a little fusion procedure.
Yeah, it's a massive 4-level fusion. It's about as big as you get.
A rep for the wrestling legend tells us that Hulk required a 4 fusion procedure on Wednesday, an effort to make him feel a little bit better. The 71-year-old required little recovery time and was back to work on Thursday, and the rep says, quick turnaround. I don't know who this rep is, but this rep better never ever this rep needs to be fired for being a rep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Going under the knife, of course, is nothing new from WWE Hall of Famer. As just last year, he told Logan Paul that he had at least 25 operations from 2014 to 2024.
Oof, that's sad.
I've had 10 back surgeries, he said on the show, both knees, both hips replaced, shoulders, everything. Fortunately, he's bounced back from all of them, and it seems to be done. It seems to already be done the same with the most recent run-in with the surgery. Now,
I think that's
him talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is May of, again, Dan. Dan, I think this is right after the surgery.
Like, I think he's in the waiting area after, like a checkup.
Imagine being on a vacation for a very...
No, I'm not getting these effing pre-rolls here. Doesn't even...
Sounds pretty great, right?
I mean, it's just like a dark screen.
Yeah.
You can stay long.
It's great news for Hulk and fans as he's expected to have a busy summer getting ready to kick off his new wrestling league. His beer, which is told earlier this month that he's all stoked up about. All right, let me see. Here we go after we get this.
Today with Verbo
Oh, Jesus.
We'll thank you later.
We're up and running. We're on the crest of the wave, and we're on a crazy roll, man. It's getting nuts.
Yeah, so tell us about this, Hulk, because if people are thinking, hey, this is
Now, again, this is immediately, I'm assuming days after he just had, Dan, fill it in.
A 4-level discectomy with fusion.
professional wrestling. This is WWE. No, this is not. This is freestyle wrestling or amateur wrestling, but on a professional level.
And I mean, you can tell that he just got out of the hospital because he's not shaving the way he likes to have his beard a little bit. He'll NWO when he went out when he would NWO diet.
Yeah, it looks pretty bad.
Hulk, tell us about what you got going on here with you and your buddy Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, well, it all started out with the beer. You know, the real American beer, just like the Hulk Hogan name. The Hulk Hogan's got over
I'm trying to figure out where he's at.
thousands licenses out there for products. You know, we started out with real American beer. It was an open lane. One of the huge companies messed up their marketing plan, so I saw this open lane for a light beer that could bring America back together. So we started out with that new brand, real American beer, and all of a sudden,
and
The beer that could bring everybody together.
right, exactly, because they messed up the first time. They messed up the marketing on the first time, so they brought me in. So Dan, here's the deal: if this is after his surgery, to me it looks like the surgeons nailed it. He's fine. He just needs rest. He just doesn't need to be. Dan, is there sutures involved? And like what type of stuff do they do as surgeons on this procedure that would require you to rest so that it can heal properly and not be in and out of small private airplanes and sleeping in hotel beds and not having, a doctor by your side and recuperating, at home? Are there sutures that could be pulled? Are there, is there disc cement that could squeeze out? Like what could happen, when we talk about complications here?
Well, several things. First of all, the soft tissue is sutured back together. Sutures could pop. They probably
so he has sutures in his neck now?
Absolutely had sutures in his neck, yes.
Inside. Right.
But the bone graft, I mean, what you do when you do a cervical fusion, you take out the disc, you put this like cage or screws that connects all the bone together, but in between the vertebrae, you pack it with bone graft. That bone graft takes a few weeks to solidify. Otherwise, it's just like mud.
Right, takes a few weeks to kind of
turn into bone.
Right?
Yeah, to take, exactly. Otherwise, it'll just move around.
Opportunities.
So
and Eric Bishop.
there's limited strength with the cage. And so with if you do too much activity too early, arguably you could break one of the screws or the cage, which could cause an immediate collapse of your neck. You could also tear a blood vessel that was tied off.
It sounds like, and nobody has. We're probably the only ones that are actually breaking down the potential complications that happened as to why Terry lost his battle and his life because of having complications from this particular surgery. And like Dan said, the cage that they built around the area had bone graft and needed time for that bone graft to set in. And when that cage collapsed, it's hard telling that's probably where he got his tear or whatever in his esophagus or in his windpipe or wherever, Dan, which it's my understanding that's kind of where the downward spiral started with something of that. Can you see that, Dan? Like if you were to,
did he go in with like a change of mental status? Did he go in because something hurt? Like he like shifted and he had a problem and they had to do emergency surgery? Like there's a significant piece of this puzzle is missing, Bubba.
Oh, that's right. But if you remember, I think what we're missing here is this is just right after surgery. No complications has happened yet. But you're right, Dan. There was a story. Remember, Lummy, that he went back in for a touch up.
Yeah, touch-ups
based on a complication that he had from his initial surgery, and I think the touch up was because he did too much and somehow did one of the following that Dan said could potentially happen. And at that point, Dan, the touch up, there is no touch up. I mean, there probably comes a point where they said, listen, we can't fix what he just messed up.
Possibly, yeah.
Myself, my partner, Chad Bronstein, were always looking for that Wild Wild West deal, and all of a sudden...
And again, he's full of life here. He just got the surgery. I'm now seeing that this was 24 hours after his surgery.
And he was this is called Avant Air. It's like a private airplane that's not around, it's only out west. So he's already probably in Vegas.
Yeah, so he's already in Vegas one day after.
We're talking about TV and the industry and stuff, and I'm noticing the reality TV and the scripted stuff isn't popping and cracking like it used to be, but live sports is really taking over. The new volleyball league, Shaun White, the snowboard league, Left Lane was backing those guys. Now they're behind us. And all of a sudden, since wrestling at its core is what I'm all about.
All right, so that shows you that immediately after surgery, he's already in a private plane out west in Las Vegas promoting his new wrestling league, his new beer. This is what I said on June 18th, a month and 3 or 4 days after what we just watched. It had already gotten to this point. Some sniffing around, you might find him at a hospital near you, and it's not good. I got some pretty reliable information. So, Dan, if you really, really overdid it on this surgery, which is called a what? Well, I'm just going to be throwing it to you all the time because you're the only one that can say it correctly.
A 4-level cervical fusion with discectomy. Lummy, I just sent you a picture that you can maybe send to Bubba of what the hardware would look like after this kind of fusion.
Let me know when you have it.
Okay.
And Dan, 5 weeks after overdoing it,
you broke something.
You're in this state. You're in this. And listen, I don't have to sit here now and prove that I was right because I was. It was dead on. Dead on. Even when it was this grave. Even when it was this grave, my sources were telling me, hey, you better back it down a notch because you're freaking people out. But I'm like, well, what's the truth? And they're like, well, you're correct on what you're saying, but it's freaking people out.
Yeah, that's why they don't tell us about aliens.
That there are phone calls being made to various family members about getting to town to come say your goodbyes.
Well, how reliable are your sources?
Pretty damn reliable, but I still want to frame it, Seth, in case he got discharged last night at midnight, and I've not been able to talk to my sources since yesterday. The first day back into the hospital, checking himself back in because he overdid it. It had major and broke something. He broke something in his neck that was causing him not to be able to breathe. And I mean, like he literally, they thought they were going to lose him that day. And then Dan, the surgeons did something and made it a little bit better. But here comes the vent. Here comes all types of different machines that are very scary. And I know that you often, as a doctor, have told me that when they break out the vent, that ain't good.
I sent you Dr. Dan's link.
And am I not right, Dan? I mean,
yes, you're right.
like
absolutely, 100%.
When they bring out the vent,
bad signs.
All right, so Dan, show me here.
Okay.
Clint Rob's $10.
So this would be a typical fusion of a spine, and this is not a neck. This is more of a lumbar But what it's showing is that they'll put they'll put screws through each vertebrae, and then the screws are connected through another cage or through a bracket.
Now,
And
Dan,
so
now hold on, Dan. Is this potentially really close to what he got?
Yes.
Okay.
He had some sort of hardware that connected the bones together after the fusion, and so they're tweaky.
Is this the shoulder area, and now this is the neck area going up north like that? Is that how that represents?
Yeah, that would be. The other one's a lumbar. That's a lumbar fusion.
This is a lower pelvic region.
Right.
So this is what we need to be looking at, right? Well,
it would look more like that.
Let me see. Go back over to here.
Does that work, Dan?
Yeah, it works great as long as you take it easy for the first couple of weeks.
Man, it looks like hell.
So Dan, where with regards, this is what Hogan got.
Man.
This is similar. And again, you know what? Nobody is breaking it down like this.
No.
Nobody. Not Fox. Not Dave Meltzer. Not anybody.
Wait till you get on Pierce Morgan today, and he's breaking down those CAT scans with you.
Exactly. So Dan, this is probably something very similar to what he got. And so, where is your esophagus in this overall scheme of things with regards to that?
I'm sending you a different picture. That's more of a lumbar thing. It's going to be confusing. So the esophagus is right down the middle.
Right down the middle, right here. Boom, right down the middle, right?
Yeah.
Now,
did you get that second one, Lummy?
Yeah, it's gonna take a second.
Okay.
So I should get rid of this one?
Yeah, get rid of this one. I'm gonna show you a different one.
All right. Let me.
I just wanted to show you what the hardware kind of looks like in an X-ray, and that is screws and plates. And so when you take out the disc, you destabilize the cervix, or the cervical spine, and then the bone graft fills the gap. But until the bone graft heals, those screws are trying to hold everything together, and they're not that strong. They can break. They're made of usually titanium or stainless steel or cobalt, and they have a limit to their strength. And if they break or collapse, then you can get a sudden complication.
Well,
like
here's
this.
the deal. You were also saying though that the bone graft and the bone stuff that they're putting in needs a certain amount of time to set up, or it's just gonna never coagulate and become hardened bone.
Correct.
If you're not being somewhat sedative or
sedated or sedative.
Just kind of Get on a private plane and signing autographs and doing things like that's probably not
sedentary. You want to be sedentary so it has a chance to heal.
So this is what we're looking at here, right?
Yep.
And what do we look? Which way is the front? Which way is the back?
You're looking AP or PA, meaning it's front to back, so you can't really see it. This looks like it's probably the plate is closest to the X-ray machine, and so you're seeing the metal plate, which looks like 8 holes in it.
This might be the mouth.
That'd be no, it'd be front and back. That would be the occiput, or the back of the head.
Oh, that'd be the back of the
your
head.
skull.
All right, so we're looking at the back here.
Looks like the back.
Okay, and this is probably what similar hardware he had, and the complications that probably happened was
one of them screws broke.
One of these screws broke, and at that point could potentially get into
becomes unstable. His neck is unstable, and so the neck is C1 through C8, and if you fuse 4 of them, that means you have to get to at least C5. But what we learned in medical school was C3, 4, 5 keep you alive, because that's your breathing.
So C3, 4. So there's a little nursery rhyme to it.
Yeah.
C3, 4, and 5 keep you alive. If you screw with 3, 4, or 5, it probably means not
breathing. It's hurt your breathing. So if he had a fusion that included C4, C5, which it would probably have to, and then he had a complication which may have pinched the nerve, then suddenly his diaphragm's not moving well either, which could cause later respiratory problems.
Clinton Rubs, $100.
Let me. We will continue this. Now, Dan, they will probably do an autopsy, right?
Absolutely.
And will they be able to pinpoint exactly what happened?
How
does this turn into a cardiac arrest?
Because if it breaks and there's a collapse, it could be massive bleeding, and massive bleeding can also create more pressure onto both your nerves as well as your arteries and veins, and cause nerve damage as well as obstruct blood flow to your brain.
Not only that, but then we got reports of not being able to breathe or expel carbon dioxide, not being able to get good breaths.
Should he not have
Again, C345, that's your diaphragm. So if his diaphragm nerve is damaged, he would not be moving air well, which would, again, contribute to him having high CO2 levels, because CO2 has to do with respiration. That means the ability to move the air. It has nothing to do with oxygenation. It's respiration. There's two different things. CO2 levels rise when you don't move air. Oxygen levels decrease when you're not getting oxygen into the blood, but not necessarily because of respiration.
Seth, what were you going to say?
I've totally forgot.
So, Dan,
They said they also, they could have injured his esophagus during surgery. Again, Ken Powers chiming in.
Oh, I was going to say, but should he not have gone home?
I think by the time they sent him home, they knew what they knew their hand.
The second time or the first time?
No, they sent him home a day before he died.
No. What he's saying, what Seth is saying is
initially,
when you have a non-compliant patient, it's just like putting the cone on the dog after you operate on his ear.
He tries to chew the cone off?
Tries to chew the cone off because he can't help himself. Now, I've done surgery on over 10,000 people. Guys do not listen. They are the most non-compliant of the two sexes. Guys don't listen, especially powerful, rich, successful guys. Don't listen.
Who have investors that are saying, you need to get your ass out to Vegas because we got a big high spot going on. And you're like, well, you know what? I'm actually feeling pretty damn good.
They have zero respect for a doctor's orders. And I see it weekly in my practice. And Hogan was one of those guys that had absolutely no respect for the doctor's order saying, take it easy. You need to be done. So what you do in those situations is you admit them and make them stay in the hospital.
So Seth's right. Would have, if the doctors would have admitted him and said, listen, you're not getting out for 7 days, buddy. Mm-hmm. We're going to be able to watch this for 7 days, watch the bone graft start fusing together and things like that. Do you have
a timeline between the first surgery, his discharge, and then when he bounced back?
I think it's relatively soon to when I first got on June 18th. I think he was back. What day is June 18th? I figured it was a Wednesday.
It was a Wednesday.
It's my understanding from my sources, Dan, that he went in on Monday for the complication surgery. And after the complication surgery on Monday night is when the phone started ringing to family members.
No, my question is this, Bubba. Between the first surgery and the second surgery, the complication surgery, how much time period elapsed?
A month. A month.
So he went a full month without a problem and then had a sudden problem?
I didn't necessarily ask that question and was never really told that. I just know this, Dan, that when I got on the air on this particular day right here and said this, my sources are that, and I don't know it to be true, rumor has it, allegedly Hogan is in the hospital, and I've heard people say that he might not make it. And it should create a feeding frenzy amongst reporters in the wrestling. Now, this is, again, June 18th, right, Lummy?
Yes.
Industry and maybe even in pop culture to check this out, but he's not doing well.
What happened?
I think it's a heart issue. I've been told that he publicly talked about a neck fusion surgery. I don't know if it's complications to that, but my sources say that it is complications to that, and because within 72 hours of him having this semi-major neck fusion surgery, he's out promoting this new wrestling league. Again, it sounds like all my stuff's dead on.
Dead on.
So, Bubba,
Doing
you
personal.
didn't answer the question.
Hold on. Appearances at liquor stores and bars that carry his new beer, and that he had no business of being out and about traveling. You're sleeping in a hotel bed. You don't have the comforts of home. Probably not eating as good as you should. I think the neck surgery was downplayed. A lot of people from Hogan's camp called it minor, where really it was major. If you did again, that pretty much nails it.
That's June 18th.
And Dan,
but you're not. The question is how much time elapsed from the first surgery to June 18th?
1 month.
So he had his first surgery in May?
Yes. We talked about that right here. when he was isn't there a story?
The TMZ one.
Yeah, the TMZ
May
story.
15th.
What did he tell Logan Paul that he's had 15 surgeries in the last 10 years or something?
Like 24.
24, yeah.
So Lummy, my sources were dead on.
Yes.
What they thought was minor was really major. He was up and going 72 hours thereof, and they're having complications. From this particular deal.
That's pretty brutal, though, Bubba, to go into the hospital for neck and back issues and to essentially not make it out alive.
It's major spine surgery. That doesn't
big risk.
That makes more sense to me. We've minimized the severity of it.
It looks like to me, and I have to go into words so I'm not late, but it looks like to me that once he got his surgery done, Lummy, what you're claiming to be like the middle of May, right?
Yeah.
TMZ, we had that report. So let's call it May. What was it? May 15th, May 16th?
Yeah, it should have been around May 14th.
May 14th, he has his surgery. 72 hours thereafter, he's already on a plane screwing around. He feels that good, and that the doctors probably nailed it that well. But he still has that bone marrow in there and stuff like that that's still squishing away and is not set up or coagulated, which doesn't, at that point, Dan, I'm assuming doesn't give the screws anything hard to go into, right?
The screws go into hard bone. It's the gaps between the screws, but the screws can break, just like any screw can break.
And so if anybody wants to think this was a doctor's mistake, all you got to do is look at how well and how good a shape and how well he was when he made that video of he just had one done. I'm going to get back on. Like, he was doing great. It was all the wear and tear of the being on the road for the month that, Dan, you probably, I got to think that you turn your neck the wrong way. You sleep on your neck the wrong way. Take a jolt the wrong way. I got to think that is so all very sensitive that any and all of that could cause a complication to the point of needing to go back in and get it looked at and have what they called it, a redo.
Yes.
So he did it to himself. And right?
Sounds like you overdid it.
Because, Lummy, the footage we got when it was first done, he looked like $1 million.
He sure did. Oof.
And then, 30 days thereafter, they're calling family members saying it's dire. It's not looking good.
Sad.
When I return, Lummy, here, I think this kind of started the whole downward spiral, too. And the other thing is, Brooke is really catching a bunch of, I wouldn't say heat, but all these AI people now, Brooke's not said anything. Brooke has completely stayed above the fray on all of this. She just had twins with her former Pittsburgh Penguins husband. I think they live in Nashville.
Well, she's had a rocky relationship since her father refused to show up to her wedding, right?
Yeah. Her father refused to walk her down the aisle. And the
it is. That's why when they praise
and the wedding was in Orlando, Seth. Like, it wasn't in Nashville. It was in Orlando.
That's why when they praise Hogan, they mostly give him props for what he did for the wrestling business and not what he did necessarily for his family or the community.
Never saw his twin daughters. I mean, I'm sorry,
never met his grandkids.
Never met his grandkids, I think it's the baby, the girl baby is called Molly. And Brooke and her husband named it, her middle name is Jean after Hogan's middle name. Molly Jean is her name.
Wow, so Hogan doesn't know best. He's a fool to have let that happen in his life.
Yep.
And the husband, I've been told, reached out to him and several times and said, "Can you please come and see your grandkids? Can you please come and walk your daughter down the aisle?" And I guess he said he didn't do weddings or funerals.
He only does.
He'll do a book signing at the Piggly Wiggly.
He'll do the book signing along with sell you a 12-pack at the Piggly Wiggly in Armpit, Tennessee.
And he'll do a Fox and Friends interview on the couch, elbow to elbow, with Eric Bischoff, then the other guy that was going to get the freestyle wrestling thing off the ground, but can't make it to
to his firstborn's and his firstborn's wedding.
And
But-
never,
but-
and not
hold
to
on,
see
but
his
he- but-
grandkids. Did not even see your grandkids.
That's gross.
And hold on, guess what? He didn't miss Nick's wedding. Nick got married.
Nick got married?
To that porn star Tanya.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they got married at the K-pop tree.
So do you blame Hogan or do you blame his wife? Sky.
I blame Sky.
Is Sky a bad influence on him? Well, has she been?
I think so.
Really? No.
I think she's a gold digger. I think she's a gold digger.
They're married?
And I don't know that they got a prenup.
Oh, man.
Yeah, this is going to get bad.
So, Nick, good
this
job,
is going
Nick.
to get bad. This is going to get bad.